Hey guys, welcome back to part 5 of my programming Klondike in C++ tutorial. Now, in this video, we're going to be programming our main function, our shuffling deck function, and our fill deck function, and we're going to be printing it out into the command line for us all to see. Now, I want to start off with something I forgot from the last video, which is our suits enumeration. So I'm just going to copy and paste it here and then quickly explain what it means. So our suits, spades, diamonds, and heart, again, are 0, 1, 2, and 3. And if we apply a bitwise shift operation on the binary representation of these numbers, so we shift it 1 to the right, we're going to extract this second number in the binary representation, and we can use that to see what color each of the suits are. And then this will just be very easy for us to check if a move is valid later on when we're moving cards to piles and so on with our get card suit function right over here. Now moving on, I've already created a file called deck.h, and this is where we're going to be writing our files for filling a deck and shuffling it. So I want to start off with including our types function and declaring these two functions. So our types.h is just so we can have our deck pointers and so on, and then we have our fill deck and shuffle deck, and we're actually going to define this in deck.cpp. So first of all, I want to include my header files and use my standard namespace. So I have my deck.h, random, and algorithm. And then moving on, we have our first function right over here, and I'm just going to quickly explain what it is. So basically this function is, since we're initiating our deck, which is just an array of cards, and it's initially just all going to be empty. It's all going to be no card. We actually want to fill this deck first with a bunch of cards, and then we can go and shuffle this. So first of all, we're going to have it for each deck that we have. So for the number of decks, we're going to add 52 cards. Obviously, we only have one deck, since we already stated earlier the rules we're playing with is only one deck. But, you know, it's just good to have if you do plan on changing this in the future for your own rules. And then second, we're going to have this for loop, which is going to start from the ace of clubs and go all the way to the heart of king of hearts. And we're basically just going to fill a card at the index, which if you remember, we initiated the index to be 0 right over here. And then we're going to increment this index. So this is kind of just useful, so we can just make sure that we're not repeatedly setting the same value at one area in the deck. And then we're going to go on to our next function. So over here we have our shuffle deck, our void shuffle deck, and this is just to shuffle the deck. So we're just going to use random deck underscore shuffle, and we're just going to shuffle the deck from the cards array, and we're just going to add the deck size to this. And I think a better way to do this would actually be all deck size. I think this would just be more correct, although it doesn't really matter since we're only working with one deck. And then I've already made a main.cpp file, and basically I'm just going to walk through what we have here. So we first have our header files, which, you know, pretty standard iostream random ctime types.h and deck.h, so we can just use this function right over here. We're using random in ctime, so we can get a random c for our functions. So first of all, I'm just going to have our main function. I'm going to copy and paste it right over here, and then I'll quickly explain what it does. So first of all, we're setting a random speed. So when we shuffle our deck, we're making sure that every time we shuffle it, it's going to be something different. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have our first deck, and it's just going to be called deck, and we're going to fill that deck at this pointer. And the parameter is a reference to the pointer, because if you guys remember in our deck.h, we defined it to be a pointer to the deck. And then we're going to print this deck, and we actually don't have a print deck function yet, so I'm just going to quickly copy and paste the code for our print deck function and quickly explain what it's doing. It's very, very basic. So our print deck is just going to loop through our entire all deck size, which again, it doesn't really matter what you have here. It's going to have the same effect, and it's going to print the card, and then it's going to see out a blank space, and you can kind of see what it's doing. So if the card is no card, so if there is a card at that location, it's going to print out the ASCII suits of that card, and we can kind of see what it is right over here. So it's going to print this out, and basically it's just going to have a reference, and it's just going to go either 0, 1, and so on. It's going to be very basic, and we already have all the functions written up. This should be pretty easy to understand. So let's go ahead and let's compile this. So I'm just going to do make, and then I'm just going to do cgk.exe. And as you can see, this is our first before we shuffled it. So this is when we just filled the deck and we printed it out. And as you can see, it's going to have our ace of clubs all the way to our heart of kings. So this is exactly what we want. And you can see after we shuffle the deck, it looks to be completely random, and there isn't any repeats as I can see. So let's go ahead and let's run this again just to make sure it's completely random. So you can see it's a different number from last time. So this is, since it is a pseudo random time base, then we should not really be worried about it not being a good random. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have this shuffle just one more time just to make sure that every time it does it, it is completely random. So I'm going to go ahead and make again, and I'm going to run CGK. And as you can see, these are just completely different. So this is exactly what we wanted. Now, if you guys have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment below. In the next chapter, we're going to be moving on to actually distributing these cards into our piles and our stock.